Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I read glitch in the matrix stories, usually. Stories that are just strange. Now let's get right into it. Story title. After a night in the woods, the radio in my car was different. Author name: Aneffinglady. This is not nearly as weird or frightening as other glitch in the matrix stories I've read, but it's still unsettling to me. One night, when I was a late teen or early 20-something, I went to visit a new guy I had just started dating. I was invited over to meet and have dinner with his parents, who he still lived with. I was surprised when he gave me the address, to see that they lived way out in the woods. Like the last half mile to their house was a really rough and rocky dirt road. They were probably 2 miles from their nearest neighbor and maybe 5 miles from the nearest town. The car I owned and drove to their place at night had a crappy radio with some broken knobs on it. It was an old car, old radio, and I was a broke student at the time and couldn't afford anything better. As I mentioned, I just started dating this new guy. I don't think he'd ever even been in my car yet, so he didn't know my radio was broken. This is important to the story. Since I lived in a suburb near a major city, I was always used to locking my doors. It was an absolute habit, so even though they lived way out in the woods, I still locked my car when I pulled up to their house. I went in, met his parents, we all had dinner, and then he and I sat around and listened to some music for a while, before I decided to leave and go back home. At no point were we alone. His parents were either with us or in the next room over from us, with the door open, and no one else was there. As I leave, I get into my car, wave goodbye to them, and start heading back down the dirt road. Somewhere on that dirt road, I went to turn my radio with a broken knob, but to my great surprise, there was a new knob on there. Totally different from the one that broke off a month earlier or so. I was shocked, honestly, and fiddled around with the knob in the dark to try and figure out what in the world was going on. It was then that I noticed that not only was the knob different, but the entire radio was totally different. How is this even possible? My car had absolutely been locked, and I remembered locking and unlocking it, and no one out there even knew mine was broken. Not to mention, we'd all been inside the whole evening. When I got home, I did call and ask them if they happened to give me a new stereo, and they all said no, naturally. I made him ask his parents even, and I'm sure he thought I was a weirdo, but then he confirmed that nobody in their house had done it. So tell me, what are the chances that somebody is hiking deep in the woods in those 3 hours and just happens to have a car stereo with them, figured out how to jimmy my lock, installs the radio for me, then locks the car again and slinks away? I'm guessing that is infinitesimally small. Personal thoughts. How curious. The obvious answer that hops into my head is a reality transition. But the usual catalyst for this is morbid, death. And I highly doubt that happened unless somehow your then boyfriend's parents poisoned you. Let's skip that possibility. Outside of that, perhaps it's just one of those real glitches similar to dropping a pen and seeing it vanish in thin air, or like a ball you're throwing just disappearing mid-throw. Anomalies that really make no sense and have no clear categorization, but are rather small in of themselves. Nothing that would make the news if proven, but is enough to make you think you're going nuts. But you're not, don't worry. This kind of stuff just happens. There's just oddities. It does make me think that this could be a simulation. It would make a lot of sense. But then we have to argue over semantics of what God is. I mean, is God just like a programmer? Doing a 9 to 5 in the real world? That would be interesting. So question, did you experience any other anomalies since this happened to you? Like, any details that are out of place in your ordinary life that, just were slightly off? Because this could be evidence that you did transition over to a different reality. Let us know. Second story. Story title: The Helpful Ghost. Author name: Automatic Stop 33. This happened when I was 13 years old. I was obsessed with the movie The Craft and desperately wanted to conjure spirits and pagan gods. Of course, I had no idea what I was doing. I would sit in the dark, light a circle of candles around me, and basically give out invitations to, well, I'm not sure, to ghosts and magical things, I suppose. One night I woke up, wide awake, and looked at my alarm clock. It was about 2 a.m. The only light in my room came from the streetlights shining through the blinds. By my window there were plants, and I saw someone standing in front of them. It looked like they were watering my plants. I assumed it was my mom, but I found it weird that she was watering plants at 2 in the morning. I asked, "Mom, why are you watering my plants at this hour?" That's when I realized it wasn't my mom. The second I asked my question, the figure that was watering my plants froze up. Then they turned towards me slowly, and I saw the figure's body look like it was made of solid black mass. It looked at me, eyes black and white. At this point, I started hyperventilating. The figure or ghost in front of me faded away. I did what all children do when they're scared, hid under my covers. I don't remember anything else from that night. I must have dozed off, I don't know how. That was 18 years ago. I haven't tried to conjure anyone or anything since then. Personal thoughts. So normally in situations with hallucinations at night, I chalk it up to a variant of sleep paralysis. However, it sounds like you were able to move your body, no paralysis involved. So then I'm asking myself, how does summoning spirits or echoes fit into my theory of ghosts? That they're more like imprints left behind occasionally and only appear when needed. I don't know if it's the ritual itself that can summon such an entity though. And maybe them feeling your desire to see them and choosing to appear is what brought them. Not magic per se, but will. It's an interesting idea for sure. I asked the author, do you remember if you felt any malevolence in that moment, fear, or just confusion? They answered, I remember feeling only fear. Whether that was because of malevolence or not, I couldn't say. If I had to guess, I'd say my desire to see something paranormal might have been the driving force that let them in. Continuing my thoughts, I feel like this doesn't really represent spirits or echoes. It actually feels more like a demonic apparition, but I'm really not sure. And that's the end of our stories for tonight. If you enjoyed them, consider leaving a like, and also sharing the video with any friends you may have that are interested in this kind of subject. Apparently that can help a new channel out a lot, but don't feel any pressure. If you'd like to subscribe, I upload Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 p.m. EST. I'll see you all there.